employee to self-employed to business owner and investor. This is one journey which everyone would like to travel. From daily course of being an employee to the self-employed doing everything together without a boss, and then business owner and the investor. This is a remarkable journey, I must say, but this journey is not that easy. This journey requires a lot of courage, a lot of planning, a lot of mentorship as well. Now, before traveling, it is important to understand this journey. You need to know the in and out of this journey. You need to know how this journey needs to be done and how this journey needs to be planned. At the same time, it is important to know what are the pitfalls in this journey. Now, in order to discuss this wonderful journey, inspiring journey, and a courageous journey, we have with us someone special. That's Mark Brower, and he is joining for Arizona, USA. This is Abhishek Sengupta, and welcome back. You are listening to Abhishek Sengupta audio blogs. So let's welcome Mark Brower. He is the founder of Mark Brown Properties. Mark has a distinguished footprint in property management. As an ASU alumnus and with both BS in Business Economics and an MBA, he has been landlord since 2000 and entered the client property management in the year 2009. He firmly believes in playing long-term game, emphasizing value creation, long-term relationship in business. As Mark is here with us, we have taken a very interesting topic: employee to self-employed to business owner to investor, a remarkable journey. First and foremost, Mark, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Abhishek.
Great. Mark, I'm going straight to the discussion point. My point number one is, how important was mindset in your journey, or I must say in this incredible journey from being an employee to becoming an entrepreneur and an investor? Could you share some strategies for cultivating a successful entrepreneurial mindset? Over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Abhishek. I love mindset. I love talking about mindset. Mindset, I believe, amplifies all of our life experience and our knowledge, and it makes it more productive. It moves everything that we know and everything we've experienced to a higher plane of impact. So here's an example. One of my favorite authors, Stephen Covey, shares a story about a gentleman who was on a subway, and he was experiencing some distraction because another rider on the subway train had children that were very unruly, and they were jumping all over the chairs and messing with people and causing a disruption. And finally, this person said something to the parent. This other passenger said something to the parent who with these unruly children. And he said, "Sir, your children are bothering quite a few people here. Do you think you could do something?" And the gentleman had his head down and was lost in thought. And the gentleman came up and he said, "Oh, yes, I suppose I should do something about my children. See, we just came from the hospital, and they lost their mother. And so I guess they don't know quite what to do about it, and neither do I." So suddenly this individual who had perceived somebody else as being just disruptive and irresponsible as a parent now has a new mindset, has a new paradigm, has a new knowledge about something going on that they could not see before. And that changed everything. It immediately moved the person to compassion and understanding and wanting to help in any way. So I believe that, and that's an example of a mindset shift because of new information that was available. Specifically for entrepreneurs, I believe that the only reason I'm not making more money than I am today is because I don't see the world like someone that's making a lot more money than I am. So let's say my goal is to make $1 million a year. Well, I have to start seeing the world more closely to those who make $1 million a year, see the world, before I can start understanding and behaving in a different way that will cause that reality to manifest.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. Wow. First and foremost, The Subway incident, which you have really mentioned, it's really very touching. It's one of the incident which I keep on, sharing during some of my, some of my sessions. This really says how the shift in mindset is important. Because I must not say it's important. This is the natural phase. Because with the new information coming in, we have to shift, and likewise our reaction changes, likewise our action changes, everything changes like that. You have rightly mentioned that how a disturbance mindset, the mindset which was, thinking about the disturbance because of the actions by the children, when that particular mindset gets a new info and it gets changed into compassion. It thinking about that mindset is thinking about how one can help in such situation and all this. So new info leads to this paradigm shift. So this is important, and same exactly happens when a person shifts from being an employee to an entrepreneur. Now, I must say this is important. Number one, this is natural, and one must embrace this. So, some of the very good pointers which we got from you, Bob. Now, this takes me to my second point. Now, from your experience, what are some common misconceptions or myths about transiting? I must say transiting from an employee to an entrepreneur or investor. And myths and the misconceptions are common in every field, so it is the same in this particular transition also. What is your thought on this, Bob? Over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Abhishek. So I can share a little bit about my story growing up as a child. My father is a dentist. And so my father practiced dentistry for over 3 decades. Dentistry is a very difficult profession for some. It's a very highly stressful profession, and it also requires a lot of schooling and preparation in order to become a dentist. And on top of being a dentist, you also, if you have a dental practice, you're also running a small business at the same time you're dentist. So it can be very stressful. I saw my father as a child growing up. I saw my father dealing with a large level of stress. Things that he was not comfortable with just really stressed him out. And so I grew up with a mindset thinking the goal in life is to not work. Work is the enemy. We toil away and we work away in order to make money. We trade our time for dollars. And the goal is to stop doing that at as young an age as possible, retire. Okay. This was my employee mindset at that time. One of my great mentors in business told me that there's a different vocabulary. There are different words used by people who think like employees, by people who think like self-employed, by people who think and behave like business owners, and again, those who behave like investors. There are those 4 quadrants. Robert Kiyosaki talks about these in his books. And so I didn't realize when I was young, watching my father, all I knew was my family, my culture and my knowledge and my experience were all contained within my family experience. And my father talked like and behaved like an employee. What do employees think? They think, what is my per hour wage? Self-employed and business owners, certainly investors, do not think in those terms. An employee thinks, what is the cost of this activity? As measured as dollars leaving their bank account. A very smart self-employed or business owner-minded person thinks of opportunity cost instead of financial cost. Employees use the words, I'm going on vacation. Self-employed business owners often say, I'm traveling. A business owner doesn't think of as much in terms of retirement. Why? Because when you become a true business owner, you have assets that are producing income for you. Why should you get rid of that asset when it's producing income for you? You already got rid of your job. See, the shift from employee to self-employed is largely based on the fact that you don't have a boss anymore. At least you don't think you do. But you're still answering to somebody. You start using the word client. I have clients. My clients expect this. Often, one of the myths and misconceptions is when you're an employee, you think, well, I'm going to become self-employed, or I'm going to be, well, let's start with this myth. One of the myths is that self-employed and business owner are the same thing. They are absolutely not the same thing. In my view, you are not a business owner until your business can operate without your involvement, your direct daily involvement. So that's one myth. An employee might use the words, I'm going on vacation. What is my hourly wage? An employee, when I was growing up, my father used the language of an employee. He used the language of somebody. For a brief time, he tried being self-employed. It was too stressful for him. So he went back to being an employee. He was very, he would complain about his boss, how his boss wouldn't run things properly. And so this is the environment that I grew up in. And I thought I had a very small mindset, thinking like, well, clearly work is toil, clearly work is no fun. So the goal is to retire as soon as possible. Well, now that I'm a business owner, I've moved through, I went from employee, I was a terrible employee, by the way. I got fired because I was never happy with somebody telling me how to do something. I wanted somebody to tell me, here's the outcome that I need. Here are your resources. Now, please get the job done. I could thrive in that kind of environment because my brain is very creative and I would think of multiple different ways to go from point A to Z. For me, it was intolerable for someone to tell me exactly the steps I needed to follow to make something happen. I wanted to understand the underlying, undergirding principles involved in the thing. What are the guiding principles, and lead me to my own devices in order to get to the finish line. See, this is more of a business owner mindset. If we're gonna shift from employee to self-employed, one of the myths there is that we think that suddenly now I have freedom. It's not freedom. One of my favorite business books, Abhishek, I'm sure you've heard of it or you've read it, is the E-Myth. The E-Myth beautifully illustrates the point that moving from employee to self-employed often is very different than people think it is. Moving to self-employed often involves working longer, working harder, and sometimes even for less pay, doing lots of things that we're not good at and that drain us of energy. When somebody can move from employee to self-employed and not give up, but learn the very painful, difficult lessons about shifting their mindset from self-employed, employee, self-employed to business owner, what does that shift look like? That shift looks like understanding and accepting that things don't have to be perfect. Understanding and accepting that my value is not being highly responsive to every stimulus that comes in. Understanding and accepting and expecting that my clients support my business and the balance that I need in my life. Understanding and accepting that when I hand somebody off to an employee, it may only get done 70 to 80% as well as I could have done it myself, and that's good enough. Understanding and accepting that I should be constantly thinking about moving 80% of the things that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis off of my plate and finding the who, not the how, to make that happen. That's another one of my favorite books by Dan Sullivan, Who, Not How. When we start thinking in this way, we start moving from self-employed to business owner. The problem with self-employed, if we stay in a self-employed small mindset forever, we will either burn out or we'll constantly live in a situation where we're not enjoying the work we do. I believe that people who pursue entrepreneurship are in pursuit of two main things: freedom and fulfillment. And the freedom is financial freedom and time freedom, okay? But all too often what happens is we jump into business ownership, we launch a business, and we find that we are now a slave to that business. We are a slave to our small thinking. We are a slave to our clients. We end up working until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning because we want to keep every promise we've made. We think small. We don't leave enough money in the business to be able to hire the other people to help do these business activities for us, not as well as we can, which is okay. We don't invest in the technology, the systems, the processes, the checklists, the controls that will allow us to bring labor into the system to then leverage our mind and our thinking and our efforts. There's a number of different mindset shifts that have to happen for someone to move through that process of employee to self-employed to business owner. I once saw a statistic that less than 10% of the businesses in the United States get over $1 million, ever reach over $1 million in gross revenue. It's extremely difficult. And then to go from $1 million in revenue to 10 million in revenue is fewer than 0.1%. I haven't looked at those statistics recently, but it is extremely difficult to move from self-employed to true business owner because of the various different mindset blockers that we have to push through and have those breakthroughs. It's very rare.
Well, that's pretty interesting. It's really interesting. You have rightly mentioned that being a business owner, you don't have to work. You should not be working. Rather, you must be trading your time. You have rightly mentioned Robert Kiyosaki. Robert Kiyosaki, in his book Rich Dad Poor Dad, has mentioned a very important line, a very insightful line. Poor people work for money, and the rich people, money works for them. So exactly that's how you have to trade your time. That's point number one. Secondly, you have rightly mentioned that self-employed is not equivalent to being a business owner. Self-employed simply means you are your own boss, but you simply do not have your boss. That's what is the self-employed. However, in case of being a business owner, to delegate the stuff, it's not how, but who. That's what is the real paradigm shift which is there. And E-Myth is really one of the amazing books, I must say, everyone must read at least once in their lifetime. So some of the very good pointers which we have got from you. Now this takes me to my next point. Now, how important was mindset in your journey from being an employee to being an entrepreneur and then an investor? Could you share some strategies for cultivating a successful entrepreneurial mindset? Over to you, Mark.
Absolutely, Abhishek. And I'm going to answer that question this way. When I started my journey in being a self-employed property management company owner, as I mentioned, I alluded to the fact that there were many nights that I was working till 1, 2 in the morning, doing more work than I could possibly sustain. In fact, studies show that the more decisions you make in one day, the lower quality those decisions become. I have an 18-year-old son who recently told me, he saw me come home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He said, "Dad, you need to go back to work. You need to make money. There's work for you to do." And I put my arm around him and I said, "Listen, Drew, did you know that some of the most successful people in the world, Oprah Winfrey, for instance, only works about 3 hours per day?" That blew his mind. He couldn't understand that. Yes, because it's not the quantity of labor, it's the quality of the impact that you make. The market does not pay for your time. The market pays for value creation. What am I doing to create value? Tim Ferriss wrote the 4-hour work week, the 5-hour work week, 4-hour work week. And Tim Ferriss, I love something he said in that book. He said, if there was only one thing you accomplished today, what would that thing be? Truth be told, if we did one impactful thing each day and we did it well, it would be enough to move us along the path to financial abundance, to wealth creation. What is that thing? Well, for me, my mindset of where I'm at right now, I'm going to come back to entrepreneur organization. So I don't want to forget that. I'm going to come back to entrepreneur organization because that made a massive shift in my mindset. My one thing now is about recruiting, finding, and bringing in the smartest people that I can that align with my values to move my mission forward strategically, that have the skills that I need, the talents, the gifts, the talents, and the skills that, when combined with our organization that exists already, will add additional value to our clients and our constituents. I'm strategically looking for the smartest people that I can afford that have the right skill set to complement our competencies, the competencies we've already created, so that we can create more value for our constituents. And when we create more value, when we become obsessed with value creation, this is another mindset shift. Early on in my business journey, I was obsessed about getting the most money I could for me. How do I pay my bills? Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Psychology 101. We need food and shelter. We need safety, right? We have these needs. And when we don't have enough money coming in, we can't help but overly focus on these base needs. What becomes more transformative over time is when our base needs are met and we start thinking more creatively. We start thinking about contribution. We start thinking about transformation. We start realizing that our clients, those that we want to serve, are on their own transformative life path. And that if we can add value, sometimes in uncommon or unexpected ways, to somebody else's transformative journey through their life, that there's tremendous value creation in that process. And then it becomes less about obsessing about how can we get the most money from other people, and instead obsessing about how can I leverage my unique gifts and talents that are unique to me and those around me that I've assembled in this team to contribute maximally to other people's lives. And then guess what? The money comes as an afterthought. The money just comes rushing in, because the value creation is so great. So it's a different way of thinking about making money. It's leading with value creation. It's giving generously. Transformative partnerships, this is another thing from Dan Sullivan. Dan Sullivan said there are transactional relationships and there are transformative relationships. And transformative relationships, instead of looking at a fixed pie and I have to move the slice of my piece to get more, and that means you get less. Transformative abundance mentality relationships know that the pie grows with synergy, with mutual benefit, mutual contribution, and both parties give to each other generously. And when they do so, I believe there is a gap that opens up where anywhere you put that line where I'm getting this and you're getting this, there's an abundance, and there's an abundance on both sides where both people feel like they're winning by a significant margin. So this is a different mindset. Entrepreneur organization. One of the things that transformed my mindset the quickest, I'm going to back up a couple years. When I first started in business, I became so mired in the day-to-day operations that I could barely get my head above water to come up for air. I didn't have any time to think creatively. I wasn't giving myself any time to think about expanding my network, expanding my mind. I got to the point where I almost was ready to sell my business and close up shop and go work for someone, because it was so exhausting. I was doing so many tasks and activities that not only drained my energy, but took up all of my time. It was defeating. One day, I had lunch with a gentleman who wanted to buy my business. He mentioned an organization called Entrepreneurs Organization. He mentioned that he had joined that and it had helped him significantly. So I looked into it. I had 350,000 annual revenue when I joined. They said to me, Mark, within 3 years, you need to be over $1 million in revenue, or we're going to kick you out. The whole goal of this program is to get entrepreneurs over $1 million in annual revenue. Well, it took me 6 years and they did not kick me out. But what happened was, almost by osmosis, I started surrounding myself with people who thought differently. And as I spent more time with them, my thinking began to change. So Entrepreneur Organization took me from being an entrepreneur on an island without contact with the outside world. And it moved me to a community where I was gaining knowledge, I was gaining friendship, mentorship, accountability with my peers. And I met my business coach, who I still work with 8 years later now. And this changed everything about my mindset. So I'm going to share one more thing about mindset. Charles Koch is the founder. His father founded So owner of Koch Industries. Koch Industries, second largest private company in the United States, over 100 billion in annual revenue. Charles Koch's net worth is over $60 billion. He has more than 4,000 times the company business since he took over in the 1960s. Charles Koch, one of the guiding principles in Koch Industries is knowledge centers. Charles Koch observed that the second law of thermodynamics is entropy. In a closed system, things break down. So the importance of new light, new energy, new resources, new knowledge is absolutely critical if we are to move forward in our journey as transformative leaders, as entrepreneurs. We must have recurring, regular sources of new light and knowledge. It is the vital fuel that moves us forward and allows us to experience mindset breakthroughs. And Entrepreneur Organization was a significant help in my journey.
Pretty interesting. Now, I must say it's really interesting. 3 pointers, quick pointers, which I got. First and foremost, quality of work is much important than the quantity of work hours given. This is point number 1. Second, you have rightly mentioned that market pays you for the value addition, not for the work which you do. That's number 2. And the third thing which really, lead to a transformation in you was definitely the people around you when you joined the Entrepreneurs Organization. This led to the knowledge, number 1, friendship, of course, and third is a mentorship, which actually pushed you to move forward and achieve your goal in 6 years. But that's also perfectly all right. Now this takes me to my next point. Looking back to your journey, what do you wish you had known before transiting from being an employee to starting your own business or venturing into investment? Are there any lessons that you would like to share? Over to you.
Absolutely, Abhishek. This is something I feel very passionate about. I feel like if I knew what I know now and I had to start over, I could have built my company. And it has taken me 14 years to get where I'm at right now with my property management business. I started a property management business with a partner for 2 years. That partnership dissolved. And now, under my own company name, I've been doing this for over 12 years. So if I could go back knowing what I know now, I could have done this, I believe, in 3 to 4 years tops. And currently our business is 2 million in annual recurring revenue, and over 620 properties under management. We're also adding 20 properties per month, and our average client is staying with us 50 months. So we are headed to 1,000 properties under management in the next few years. I think if I had to start over, knowing what I know now, I would have been able to reach this point in a much shorter amount of time. And so what are those things that I would have done differently, or what do I wish I had known if I were to start over? Number 1, it is absolutely okay to ask for help, and you are worthy of the help others can provide to you. For some reason, I had this mindset issue where I did not feel worthy of other people's help without paying them. And I felt that I didn't have the money to pay them, so I was stuck. You are worthy of help that other people can give you. Ask for it. Be humble. Here's the payoff. If you're asking yourself, well, what's the payoff for someone else that's really smart, that knows what I need to know? I can't afford to pay their consultant rate of $500 per hour or $1,000 per hour. Why would they help me? Here's why. I'll tell you why. There are a certain percentage of very smart business people in this world who, as payment for their knowledge and their wisdom, all they need to see is that you are a smart, capable individual that uses their ideas and turns them into something that grows and that is productive. I would be happy to contribute 15 or 30 minutes of my time once a month or twice a month for the right individual, that when I help them change the way they think and they apply it in their life and their business, it makes a significant change. And I can see that progress. That in and of itself is gratifying to me. Okay. I have very limited time. I prize my time very highly, but that is enough of a payoff that if I can see that happening, I'm willing to do that at no cost because I believe in contributing to other people's financial abundance in their journey. And guess what? Maybe sometime 5 years from now, that person values me so highly and their business becomes so successful, they'll ask me to be on their advisory board and I will get paid, or they'll give me some equity in their company. I'm not requiring that, but I know that those things are a possibility. Plus, if it's a really smart individual, eventually I know that they'll have enough contacts with other people, and I will have contributed in a meaningful way to their journey, in so much that they will feel a debt to me, because that's what good people do. They help each other out, and that creates an emotional bank account, an investment in other people. And I just trust that the universe, and I trust good people, that those dividends come back. They do. It's a multiplying effect. So I wish I had known, if I could start over again, I would know that I was worthy of somebody's help, and that it was okay, and absolutely not just okay, but absolutely necessary that I ask for that help. I would have left more money in my business earlier. The temptation for entrepreneurs is that we're working so hard that as soon as we see money coming in, we conflate the business account with our personal spending account, and we think, well, surely I deserve a more comfortable lifestyle. I am working very hard for it. And so most entrepreneurs do not leave enough resources in the business itself in order for it to make the investments it needs that will have a compounding effect and get that business larger faster. There are two modes in business if we want to oversimplify things: growth mode and profit mode. When you are a small business, you are not in profit mode. If you push into profit mode too early, you will be stuck in profit mode at a very low level for a very long time. Leave enough resources in the business. Think of it like the great gift that it is. Imagine this: you can take money before you pay taxes on it and invest it in something that gives a very high rate of return. This should be illegal, right? It's not. It's called business ownership. When you reinvest into your business before you withdraw income from the business, it's essentially investing pre-tax dollars into a very lucrative investment. Now that I look back and I see the growth of my business, I see that the money that I reinvested in the business achieved 20 to 30, 40% returns in many cases. And it was pre-tax dollars. So 70, 80% returns, probably, yes. So don't take more resources out of your business than you absolutely need, so that it can grow, so it can compound. Number 3, invest in community and knowledge centers and mentorship. I believe you need this kind of a team. If you are going to accelerate to the degree of your potential, accelerate as quickly as you can on your entrepreneurial path, you need a business coach, a mentor, a peer group, an accountability peer group. Those 3 things. I would have sought out those 3 components much earlier in my journey. Finally, I would have realized that there's no way I can do everything on my own, and I need to, as quickly as possible, hire an operations manager. Here's something I didn't understand about myself early on. I mistakenly thought that I was very smart, and I am a pretty smart person. But each of us has our own unique gifts, our own unique abilities. So yes, if I'd known then what I know now, I would definitely have been engaged in knowledge centers, in peer groups. I think there's 3 components, as I just outlined. Have a business coach, have a mentor, and have a peer accountability group. Okay, so understanding that you're worthy of the help and that you should ask for help, leaving enough resources in the company so that the momentum of the building of the business has the fuel that it needs, the cash is the fuel, and then accessing enough knowledge centers. I think the last piece I wish I had known better is some self-awareness. I believed I believed at the time that I was so smart that I could figure everything out myself. And that got me so far. That got me to 350,000 in annual revenue. That's not a small thing. That's a viable going concern in the United States. Is that level of a business? That's a small, you know, entrepreneur, self-employed business that can pay the bills, right? But what I didn't understand is that I needed other complementary skills and talents that, when combined with mine, created a multiplying effect. I am a visionary. I'm a futuristic thinker. I get excited about initiating new ideas. I'm a creative thinker. I have very high reading comprehension and retention. I can learn things. I can learn things, recall them, and then apply them in ways that are unique and impactful. And I am an abstractionist. I can take an abstract idea and put it into concrete form, into something that is like a business that improves something, that moves something along. I can take these ideas like Charles Koch would do. Charles Koch had this vision of every time he found what was a true principle in a free market economy, he would try to imbue that principle into his organization. An example of this is private property rights. In a free market economy, private property rights are paramount. People need to be able to own things and control the means of production and trade with others. Well, that's a true principle. And it's a true principle in every free society that has prospered. So how do you take that principle and put it into a company? When a company, in a way, is sort of it's a dictatorship, really. The person at the top controls all the decisions. Well, that's not helpful, and that eventually reaches a bottleneck. That structure. So Charles Koch copied what were decision rights in the real world, and excuse me, he observed that private property rights were essential in a free market economy. And so he copied those and interior to an organization, called them decision rights, that people within an organization had very clear decision rights, that they could control resources and make certain decisions, that they didn't have to ask for permission, and that was a self-sustaining, empowering way of growing a business. And those decision rights had to be earned, just like private property has to be earned in the real world. And so I've realized that I'm an abstractionist. I'm a visionary. I'm a big picture thinker. It took me a long time to accept and embrace this as a valuable thing. It came so naturally to me that I thought, well, everybody would just like to sit back in their chair and think about things. Nobody's going to pay you for that. Well, guess what? People do pay for it. If you have really good ideas, people pay for it. And in fact, people that are really strong in execution love to be around somebody that's really high in ideation and futuristic thinking, because they need that. They need the vision. They need to feel inspired. They need a clear picture of where the ship is headed. Once I understood what my strengths were, and I had enough confidence to stay in my strength and trade with others where they could stay in their strength, and we started having these mutually beneficial, long-term, mutually beneficial preferred partnership type relationships, both with my internal employees, thinking of them like partners, and with clients and vendors and residents, thinking of everybody like, hey, you're a partner to me in helping me fulfill my dreams, and the same that I am a partner to you. Getting really clear about what kind of relationship that looks like. So me understanding self-awareness increases to a level where I understand what I'm really good at. I accept and I embrace that, and I decide it's okay, and I value it for what it's really should be valued at. And then I surround myself humbly with the people that are way better at the things that drain me of energy. And let me clarify that point. They don't have to be way better than I could be in that specific task or that activity, right? But they have to be comparatively better at that thing than I am. Meaning that if given an unlimited a number of things that they could do, they gravitate toward this thing. Some people gravitate toward accounting. They love accounting. I can't stand accounting. So maybe I'm smart enough that if I discipline myself, I locked myself in a room, I could discipline myself to do accounting, and maybe I could even do accounting better than this other person who loves accounting. That's not the point. The point is, do what fuels you. Momentum creates momentum. Cameron Herold would say that. Momentum creates momentum. Do the thing that energizes you, that accesses your unique ability, where you're in a flow state, where you feel like you could do this all day. You forget to eat. It gives you so much enthusiasm and energy. Okay, that's where you belong. Let other people do their flow state, and understand and accept that there are enough people that like to do all the different things in business that you can find someone super passionate about everything that you're terrible at. I believe entrepreneurship is the best job in the world, because the more resources I have, the more people I can hire that love doing the things that I can't stand doing. And my job becomes progressively more and more fulfilling. So people, I believe, pursue entrepreneurship for the two F's: freedom and fulfillment. The freedom is time and financial, but fulfillment doesn't have to be some far off goal. Fulfillment comes immediately when we understand what we're good at, where we should be playing, what our focus, our unique ability is, and stay in that flow state and be willing to say no to everything else, and have the confidence and the system built out that allows us to delegate and hand everything else off. Then fulfillment starts now. And once we're on the path of fulfillment, our journey, our business building speed accelerates, because we're compelled, we're jumping out of bed every day instead of dreading it. So that's what I've learned, that if I could go back and start over, I would come out with those four things, and I'm confident things would move a lot faster and with a lot more joy and satisfaction.
Amazing. Can't agree more. It's really amazing, really interesting. Some of the pointers which I have noted while we were conversing. First and foremost, it's okay to ask for help, because many a times I have seen the entrepreneurs, they are very shy asking for help, which should not be the case, because you are worthy of someone's help. That is something a confident building mindset wanting to do. Number one. Number two is that resources in the company. You must keep enough resources in the company, because that is the fuel which keeps you running. Because higher the resources, better decision-making capacity you will have, and vice versa. Number three is that you can either go for a growth or a profit. But right way, I personally feel that right way of mix and match, how much growth would you like to take up, how much profit would you like to take up, that's very important. So growth mode, profit mode, the right balance is important. And of course, the 3 pointers which you have mentioned is that you need to have 3 pointers which you got definitely. Number one is mentorship. Number one. Number two is the business coach. And number three is the peer group accounting. Now, these 3 are the fantastic resources. I must say mentorship is a blessing in business, because, it's not only just hand-holding. Mentor can really help you to sail through the tough times in business, because, business has got ups and downs. In the words of, Spencer Johnson, it's peaks and valleys. You have got peaks, you have got valleys, because whatever the actions you take in the valley takes you up to the peak, and whatever the mistakes you do in the peak brings you down to the valley, and vice versa. So that is something which is important. And third is just definitely self-awareness. Self-awareness is important. It's not only for monks. It's not only for the monks who sold his Ferrari by Robin Sharma, but it is important for everyone, including the business founders. So some of the very good pointers which we got, some of them are really inspiring. Now, this is taking me to the last point. Can you share your personal journey from being an employee to become a self-employed and eventually a business owner and an investor? Now, here we would like to know what are the key milestones and turning points in this transition and how you face this and how our audience can face it. Over to you.
Absolutely. So my personal journey from employee to self-employed to business owner and then investor, and what were the key milestones? So I'm going to summarize this and try to keep this very simple. I graduated from college with a business degree in economics, as you mentioned, and I got an internship at a commercial land brokerage firm. I saw a bunch of guys in their 20s making lots of money, and I thought, these guys are no smarter than I am. I'm going to try this. I tried it. I got lucky. The market was right. I got in with the right team. I made a lot of money in my 20s. It went all to my head. I had a massive ego. I didn't deserve all the money I was making. It was right place, right time, very lucky. So the Lord, I'm a religious man, the Lord saw fit to humble me and take that away. The market crashed and I had to figure out what I was going to do next. I started an appraisal management company. I got recruited to start the land division of a multifamily brokerage, commercial brokerage in town. I tried a few different things. I went back to school, got my MBA, and it was a rough time in the market. And eventually I decided, my wife and I already had a few rental properties at the time. We decided that we had a poor experience with a property management company and that we could certainly do a better job than they could. So there must be a need. I think an entrepreneur sees an unmet need and they see how that connects with their capability and their talents and their skills and their experience, and then they start that business. That's how we got started. Then I bumped along, as I mentioned, I got distracted. I took on large clients. That was a mistake because they hijacked the growth of my business and they demanded that I change my operations to suit their needs. And that really caused me to grow a lot slower than I should have because I was trying to serve these large clients. Okay, this is a common trap that self-employed small business owners can fall into. But avoid it. Keep your client base very diversified. Next, I was too smart, like I mentioned. I thought that I could figure out everything, and I didn't leave enough money in the business. My lifestyle needs for money were growing such that I didn't leave enough money in my business to be able to afford the talent that I needed to complement my strengths. And I didn't know that it was okay to have things be done at 70 to 80% of what I could do, and that was good enough. I didn't understand that. I didn't accept that. Eventually, I hit a pivot point where I hired an operations manager 8 years ago. His name is Richard. He's still with me today. My growth to that point was like this. I hired Richard and we started moving like this. Things really started moving in a more confident, more positive manner. But I was still the bottleneck in the company. And I think that's something very important for entrepreneurs to understand is you are the bottleneck. You are almost always the bottleneck. If you can get out of the way, growth will happen. I was the salesperson for the company. I thought, well, nobody else is going to do sales the way I can, and I can't afford a salesperson anyway. So I was the salesperson until 3 years ago. Eventually, I hired the next milestone. So milestone was joining an entrepreneur organization, hiring Richard as an operations manager, hiring a business coach who's still with me now, and then finally hiring a business development manager. Someone, the highest paid employee, someone that could bring in business that was not me. And that person I had to pay over $100,000 a year, which to me was just so much money. I never thought I could afford it, right? But as soon as I hired that person, then our trajectory started going like this. We started growing even faster. So those are the milestones as I see them. Now I'm in a new place where not only do I have all the pieces, I have the operations manager, I have the business development manager, but now I'm looking for complementary business partnership relationships where I can acquire talent at a much higher level. People that I'd probably have to pay $200,000 to $400,000 a year if they were employees. but they see that I've already built this company with this client base, and now we can start another company that serves the same client base doing something different. The trunk is the property management business, but there are ancillary businesses like a maintenance company. I brought on a partner earlier this year to start a maintenance company. I should have done this years ago. I didn't have the confidence to do so. So I partnered with a gentleman, and now we have grown a maintenance company from $0 in monthly revenue to $130,000 in monthly recurring revenue in only 10 months. So these are the type of transformative relationships that I'm able to access now that I'm not on the front lines. I'm not doing sales. I'm not doing anything in my business. I'm working on the business, and it's very satisfying. And that's another milestone now of where I'm at. Finally, I will add, I just launched another partnership with partner Benton Cotter, and this partnership is called Solo PM. PM stands for property manager. We are empowering the solopreneur property manager to move from self-employed to business owner. This is a journey I'm very passionate about, as you can tell. And what I was lacking early on was mentorship, knowledge centers, and a strong operations manager. That was the initial milestone that pivoted me when I joined Entrepreneur Organization and I hired Richard, my operations manager. Everything changed. Solo PM, this new company we've launched, combines technology, workflow processes, and labor to do 50 to 70% of the operations for small property management company operators, people under 200 doors. The goal is to elevate the property manager, the proprietor, the entrepreneur, the small business owner, to make the highest impact so that they can spend all of their time and energy and focus on growing relationships and growing their ideas and moving forward, because we have taken care of the day-to-day operations, everything from leasing, screening residents, maintenance, owner statements, even basic phone and email customer service support. We've grown businesses, the property management businesses, very successfully at scale. And now we're bringing those resources at scale to the small operator, so that instead of maxing out at 50 doors like I was and burning out, working till 2 a.m. and feeling drained of energy, we can lift that and they can get all the way to 200, 250 units, potentially without hiring any local employees, and have a nice profit margin in so doing. So that's where I'm at today, and that's what I'm really excited about.
Wonderful. It's a really inspiring journey, I must say. Basically, I have taken down a very important point while, you were saying, first and foremost is that you need to have a right client and a diversified client. You should not be depending on, one client or one segment of the client, because this is one. Right selection of client is very important. Many of the times I have seen, that newly framed companies, they get bankrupt probably, or they have to shut down because they have selected the wrong target client. The target client was wrong. Either they have selected a very big client which they cannot cater. It actually drained them of their capital, it drained them of their profit, they negotiated like anything, and all those things have happened. So this is, or they have taken down, or they have selected their clients who cannot afford their product. So right selection and a diversified selection is very important. You should not be too much focused on a certain segment. You should diversify and get the client from every segment. So many a times we have seen certain, segment or certain strata of the market is down at certain point of time. So if you are having a diversified segment, the segment from other clients from other segments can really fill up the blanks. So that is point number one. Secondly, you have rightly mentioned that when you have got right human resources, your things get sorted, your company grows, your business really shoots up. I always say that human resource is the most important resource of the company. It's one of the biggest assets of the company. If you're having, have hired the right operations manager, business started shooting up, right business development manager, and that's what. Many times we all think that we cannot afford it, what to do. A little planning and the right selection of resources can really sort the problem. So that's there. Two very important pointers which we got from you, Mark. Now, this is bringing us to the end of the episode. Any closing remarks would you like to put?
If you want to pursue financial freedom, time freedom, and beyond that, fulfillment path. I think there's no better way of doing that than pursuing entrepreneurship. It is very difficult. It is very requires. It's going to require so much of you that by the time you're through with it, you will be a changed person. But it's my view that change is actually the whole purpose. It's not the money. It's elevating you on a transformative journey to a higher version of yourself. So if you feel called to be an entrepreneur, it's not for everybody. It's fine. If you feel called to do it, strike out and give it your all, and understand that it's going to be, sometimes it's going to be a painful, transformative process, but there's no greater sense of fulfillment that I've ever experienced in my life outside of family and religion than being an entrepreneur. It's super gratifying, and I wish you the best of luck.
Amazing, really amazing. You have rightly mentioned that entrepreneurship is one of the best jobs. I must say, it's not one of the best job, it is the best job in the world. Definitely, it gives us time and financial freedom. It's very fulfilling, as you have rightly mentioned. So some of the very good pointers which we got from you, Park. Now, this is bringing us to the end of our talk show, and we have got some amazing points from Park, and we have, heard his amazing journey, his inspiring journey, and it is going to inspire all of us. Now, if any one of you would like to connect with Park, I will give his social media and Twitter handle in the description of this episode, and that's how we got connected, and we are recording this wonderful episode. To my podcast listeners, I request for a review. I would like to have an honest review how my podcast is helping you and enhancing your life. And I'll be back with many such episodes. Till then, stay tuned, stay connected, have a great day. And thank you so much, Mark, for being a part of the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.